Hello, everybody, and welcome to this Monday Masterclass session, which is Chapter 2, all about your ideal client. So this is the second chapter of our 6-part marketing journey. We will get started very shortly, just allow a couple more people to join us coming in from the community. So thank you very much to everybody who's joined us so far, and hello to you if you are watching this on the replay. I know we get quite a lot of people who do join us on the replay, so we are thinking of you as we record this, so thank you very much for joining us. If you are live, please do tell us where you're listening in from. I am currently in sunny Brighton, very sunny today, which is lovely to see the return of the sun.
And I am in also very sunny North London, so it's lovely. I've got summer clothes on, feeling nice and summery, and lovely to see you all. Do let us know where you're at this morning.
Excellent. So what we're going to do is we are going to have a discussion in this session all about your ideal client, why you need one, and how you can find them. So we will get started on that shortly. So we have Rachel just above Manchester. Hello, Rachel. We got Jakub as well, who is coming from Poland. Wonderful stuff. Laura, who's in Manchester. Manchester friends, good times. Excellent. Thank you very much, everybody. So I think probably to kick us off with the subject of clients. So last time we did one of these sessions, it was all about mindset. It was all about getting yourself set up for your marketing and understanding that you have value to bring. There was lots of stuff we covered. If you would like to see that, just click on the Crowdcast logo in the top corner and you can watch Mindset, and then you can come back and watch this. Do check out that other chapter, and of course do join us for the next chapters that are coming. Again, you'll get reminders if you've signed up to this one about the next ones, or of course you can watch them all on replay. Excellent. And Lucinda is in Mallorca. Is that Mallorca or it is Mallorca.
Mallorca, yeah.
Mallorca, that is good. I mean, that sounds way sunnier than Brighton, but wonderful stuff. So, Francis, do you want to sort of start us off by, I guess, giving us a sort of outline of what it is you feel an ideal client is?
Yes, I'm so excited about this week. So last week we were all about, and the week before actually, we've given you 2 weeks to think about what your mindset is. And, we went a bit existential, and we were trying to work out where our happy place is and what our values are, and what value we serve to people. And now it gets really meaty because it's all about what you need back. So why we're talking about ideal client is twofold. One is in relation to what is going to focus your mind in order that you can generate and stick to a robust, clear marketing plan, agenda, direction, vision. The other one is all about what you need to keep mentally stable in order that you have a sustainable business, and so that you can create safe boundaries for yourself. So we get asked all the time, why should I niche? I've already niched. And then we get told a completely unspecific answer to what someone's niche is. And it's so easy to turn this conundrum for people on its head. People think that they are cutting off their nose to spite their face by niching. I think the idea of having to hone in on a very, very small audience freaks most people out, because they do not want to limit themselves in any way. So there's 2 things. Number one, it's about turning it around and saying, why is limiting that audience going to serve you so much better in the long run? And number 2, it's not forever. No one is saying to you, if you come up with a niche now, you have to have this is the niche for life. And in fact, a question that we ask established coaches, because we don't just work with sort of new up-and-coming coaches who are setting up their marketing for this first time. We work with coaches who might have been doing this for 20 years. If they say, here's my niche, I've had the same niche for 20 years, the question is, why? Surely you've changed in yourself over 20 years. How can the same person be working for you. Surely your passions have ebbed and flowed. Your things in your life in terms of time, well, what we talked about in terms of our value compass, you know, your time, your emotional, your physical, practical limits have all probably changed. So it's healthy, I think, to keep thinking about who the right audience, who the right client should be for you. So I'm going to stop there, Simon.
Well, I think to add to build on those thoughts, because I think they're superb in terms of just highlighting why it's important to establish that ideal client and a niche, which I think we'll dive into a bit later on in terms of how to get to that niche. But just dialing it back a little bit to thinking about your ideal customer. So a lot of, there's lots of different words for this in the marketing. There's customer persona, there's
Avatar,
that's the one I was thinking of. It's all the same stuff. Now, when you're a big business, you have many customer avatars. You might have 5 or 6 different target audiences you're going after, avatars, personas, whatever that marketing lingo is you want to do. And they'll make you find a picture of, Karen Webster, who's like the head of marketing at this business, and she does this, and she has 10 kids and 5 cars and blah, blah, and you go and it's pointless. It's just nonsense. It does keep the marketing team very busy, and if that's your job, then well done to you. However, when you get down to small business level, it's nonsense. Really, what an ideal client is someone who, when you think about them, makes you think, oh, I'd love to work with them, and it energizes you. So I've run my own business for 19 years this year, and it took us over 10 years to work out that we get to choose who we work with. And actually, as soon as we made that realisation, our business turned round. It was so much easier. And it took our business coach to tell us that. We were working with this client and we're like, oh, we really don't like them and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, why are you working with them then? And we're like, well, because we sent them an invoice and they paid it. And he was like, you get to choose who you do that to. And we're like, oh, yeah. So it's that thing of when you run your own business as a coach, you get to choose who you work with. So you may as well choose people who, when you think about them, make you go, oh, yes, I love working with people like that. That brings me so much energy. Or this brings me whatever you need into your business. Doesn't have to be energy, of course. It might be something else. But whatever you feel makes your coaching business worthwhile and gives you energy and power to do so, find more of those people. So when we talk about the marketing journey, we're talking about it in twofold. We're making 2 journeys. There's the journey that you're on as a coach, going from where you are now to where you want to be and developing a business and growing that. But there's also a client journey, and that client's journey is how you take them from where they are now to where they want to be. And it's only by establishing your own journey that you can take someone else on the journey, because then you become the guide rather than this person lost in the woods who's going, hey, does anybody else know the way out of here? You can then be like, I know where I'm going, so you can come with me. So essentially, in my mind, the ideal client is someone who helps you on your journey by you helping them on their journey.
Yeah, nice. On that, there's also this thing of like, is a niche a person, or is it how you do coaching? And there's two different. I mean, you can absolutely have a niche approach to coaching, which it's important you articulate, but that's your how. So when you are doing marketing, you're talking about what we want is for people to get to a place where they can very clearly show who they're talking to, talk about why they're qualified, talk about where that person wants to go in a way that they feel they're being heard or noticed or get excited about. So the where you're going bit is what you want to articulate, but also the how are you going to get them there? And the how is the niche approach you have in your coaching practice. Yes. But when people answer the question of what is your niche, well, what's your ideal client, and they answer with, I'm a coach that delivers forest bathing coaching in order to reach kind of balance in work life and also body and mind. That's lovely. That doesn't tell me who your ideal client is at all. It might tell me that that's your approach, but this particular moment is about thinking, as you've said, Simon, as we've talked about, who is the person that you're looking to do that how for. So it does help to, for the moment, sort of put aside your practice and think about what your values are and who you want to work with, in order that you can top and tail the how with why you and who's it for.
Well, I think you very neatly described, when you said about the forest bathing there, the what and the why, but it just never got to the who. And so many businesses are like that, not just in coaching. I've worked with small businesses for, as I say, almost 19 years, and so few businesses get to the who bit, because they get to what and they get to why, and then they're like, oh, well, that's enough, surely. The right people will come to me. And in the majority of times, yes, the right people will find you. They will put the effort in to trying to work out whether you're for them. They'll try and digest what it is you do. They'll then try and understand why on earth you do it, and then they'll try and work out whether it's for them. So for marketing to be effective and for marketing to be a journey, you just need to just put a little bit of time into that last bit to say, this is what I do, which is great. This is why I do it. This is my passion. And this is who I really like working with. And it doesn't mean that just those people will find you, but it just immediately signposts to the right people, you're in the right place, let's have a conversation. And it might be that last little step is where people fall down, because they're like, that sounds like kind of what I need. They sound like they know what they're talking about, but I don't think they do it for me. So off they go. And they go to the next coach's website, and the next coach says, I work with these people. And they're like, brilliant. That's the person I'm looking for. So it could be as simple as someone just doesn't know they're in the right place. They could be stood right in front of the right coach, and they just don't know it.
Yeah, it's funny because we've got we're part of a community called the Happy Startup School. And we have our, this is just about to be made public, but one of our founders and mentors, Carlos, is coming on to our Monday masterclass in October to talk about, as I've called it, happiness as a niche. Now, that's actually a little bit unclear, because I was talking to Carlos about this, in fact, last week, but what I want to say is your niche audience, your ideal client doesn't need to be explicitly told that they're your ideal client every moment of every day in all of your marketing. For example, I think it's quite clear that the Happy Startup School appeals to a particular demographic of people, for example, from the age of 30, maybe late 20s up to sort of 50, which is quite wide. But that's absolutely fine though. Age doesn't have to be a factor in your... The point I'm going to make is that it's not actually about all of this stuff. But it's interesting. I was saying to him, I'm pretty clear that I fit into the category that you're serving on the demographic side for these reasons. I mean, about that age bracket, I sort of think it's about middle class, like globally responsible, global citizen, environmentally responsible, work-life balancey, might have families, I think live in the sort of Western world, but they don't talk about that stuff at all. What they talk about is your happiness, is happiness at the centre of your business plan, which resonated with you and I, hence we're in that community. And in fact, I think it's how we met and ended up collaborating. Yeah. It's all about communities, people. There we go. So the point I'm trying to make is we're getting Carlos on to talk about that niche. Now, what Carlos doesn't talk about is what they do all day. So what they do all day is they've built an amazing community. They run activities that we all enjoy. So when in theory, talking about that niche is not about saying we run a community and we do all this stuff. It's about saying we're helping people like this. We do things for people like this. If you're like us, you should be part of this. That's what we're talking about. And then you say, and then the next question is, that's interesting. Why should I be part of this? What is it that you're serving? Well, what we're serving in that instance is, allowing for happiness to be at the centre of your business plan and making that alive. And in our case, our niche is coaches, quite broadly, in fact, similarly.
But I think it's important to state here that it's interesting because they're using the feeling or the outcome as the niche. So they're saying people like us do things like this, which is Seth Godin's magic, and that is exactly that. They're just saying we've got this community of people who are doing this. If that sounds like you, then you fit into our niche. And I think they're using the power of that outcome as the niche. They don't need to define what that person is. They don't need to make the Karen, the Steve, the Gary personas on the front end of their marketing, because the back end of their marketing is the magnet that pulls them in. Now, that is an interesting one, because that's their whole business model, but it's not a niche. So happiness, in my mind, isn't necessarily the niche. That is just what they're doing, what they're delivering, what they're inspiring.
They're delivering.
So it's interesting because we're able to take that market of people who want to build a better coaching business and go, but actually, of all of those people who want to build a better business, we've gone, coaches.
Yeah.
And that's come from a number of reasons, one of which is being that I ran before Better, Bolder, Braver was Better, Bolder, Braver. I ran Marketing Success Club, which was a very similar concept in the sense of helping small business owners get better and clearer with their marketing. But the problem is, a lot of those businesses just weren't ready for it. And all of the people who really did well with Marketing Success Club, in my mind, they were all coaches. And that's who, when I thought about it, I was like, I really enjoy working with all of the coaches in this community, because they listen, they get energized, they get excited, and they actually do what we're talking about, and they get excited and they see the results and they tell me about the results and they email me saying, I've done this thing and it's really worked. And that's what sort of led me down that path, and that's why when we connected we very quickly resonated, obviously from what you were doing before as well. But I think it's that thing of, so a niche isn't forever, it's just for now. When you think about it, those people are exactly the right fit. And I think if we flip it back to the people in the audience who might be sitting there thinking, okay, this is all very well, it's all a bit broad, but what do I actually do about finding a niche? I think it's important to first think, well, okay, so who is going to bring you the right energy to your business? Who do you love working with? And then just start to narrow it down from there. And it's about finding the people who you can serve the best. And they're either going to share a demographic or they're going to share a problem/outcome. So in Happy Startups case, the outcome is happiness. So the kind of people who want happiness are the niche. However, you might find on the flip side of that, if you are a relationship coach who only works with mothers going through divorce, then that's a really tiny niche, and that's a demographic. I mean, you could also argue that they also share the problem, but the point is you can take the problem and then narrow it down.
That's absolutely right. Can I just say, if you think about how that feeling, how that might be, let's just attach one word to the divorcing mothers: anxiety.
Yeah. Yes.
Now, if you go out there and talk about how you're helping anyone with anxiety, you can see how it's just not going to help you at all. So just to your point, if you can actually not talk about what it is, the happiness equivalent, but instead the descriptive avatar.
I think another great example is career change. Because career change is one of those things where it's like, well, yes, you can help people who are changing career, but actually career change starts at about 16 and it ends, I would argue, probably late 50s, early 60s. It's probably late on, isn't it, to think about changing a career. But for example, when I was an apprentice, I wanted to go and do something different. So I started to look for advice on how to change my job. I mean, I was earning, 10 grand a year at that point as an apprentice. Wasn't earning much money, but technically I was in career change. So you could argue that if your niche is career change, you're taking everybody from 16 to 55. But one end of the spectrum has pretty much no means to pay for coaching, and the other end of the spectrum probably has a lot more money to pay for coaching. So if you had to choose from either end of that spectrum, which end would you go? Or would you go in the middle? In which case, you've already said mid-career. But that's already taken the beginning and the end off. You've taken that, I've narrowed it down.
I just don't want people to think, right, I could never possibly work with young people that are having a career change, that have a career change need for support, because there are models where, example, if you if it was very important to you to work with young people, of course they might not have money. It might also be really important to work with people leaving prison who might not need to find work, and so money isn't going to be there.
You've just described two new niches.
Yeah, but I'm saying, it might then be a case of the time being spent on which charities you could work with that support people like that, or are there sort of other mechanisms, without going into too much detail here. So it's not that you. I'd want to address Lucy's point in the chat, because it's an important one. Lucy's saying, I'm confused. Is the outcome the niche, the person, or both? So it is confusing. The outcome is the place that the people that you're working with are going. And if you can articulate that clearly, then the people that you want to work with will resonate with that and know that if they work with you, they'll go to the right place. If you're able to speak clearly to a particular kind of person about the outcome that you can serve them, I would say that that's your niche audience. That's the niche we're talking about now. And then if you're able to articulate a particularly niche approach to coaching and why that's relevant to those to bringing those people to the outcome place, then that further emphasises why you're the right person for them to work with. So, and I just, before I forget, sorry, the whole thing about there's a lot of coaches who say that their niche is people who are in career transition. It's not that it's not clear, but number one, I'm afraid a lot of coaches are catering for that audience. So the other thing to think about is, if you want to stand out, either can you do something else, or how can you make that more specific? Because if you just adjust marketing about why, if you're having a career change, you might need coaching, and if you're having a career change, you can talk to me, you're just in a sea of hundreds, if not thousands, of other coaches saying the same thing. I just wanted to mention that as well.
Yeah, and I think, Lucy's just made a really interesting point, which is that you can have a model where the people in later career paying more fund the people in the early career.
Lovely.
And absolutely. So let's revisit what I was saying about that spectrum of people in career change. It's like there are a lot of people across all of those different age groups and positions and job moves and whatever they're doing in their career, right? So when you niche, all you're doing is you're saying, right, for now, I'm going to just focus my marketing on the people at this point, because I've got an amazing offer and product and process that just works for these people. Like, they just get the results the quickest right here. And if I just focus on them, I can help those people. Now then what I can do is some people will then get to know me, and they may be later on in their career. Now they're not going to look at your website and think, you're probably not the person for me. Or they might get referred to you, and they're still going to go, oh, they know what they're talking about. They're still going to get in touch. Similarly, you may get people lower down in their career path who might think, oh, do you know what? I wonder if they've got something for people who are at my stage. If they like what you're doing and they resonate with you, they're still going to get in touch. So your niche is not your market. It's just what you're focusing on at that particular moment. Now, it might be that you do 5 years of marketing to people in mid-level career change, and then you suddenly realise, like I did with the Marketing Success Club, that actually there's something about all those people you've been working with for the last 4 years, and it turns out they're all coaches. It might be you look at all those people you've worked with and you go, do you know what? They're all accountants. All the people I've really resonated with, who've been energised and energise me and have got the best results, they're all accountants. So then what you do is you just say, this is what I do for accountants, and you make that niche even smaller. And that might not come, but it may be that actually you realise you really resonate, or the people who resonate with you are actually people who've just qualified to become accountants and they're trying to find their first job. So maybe it's a whole different level, but I think it's that thing of the niche. The niche is always evolving and always changing, and people aren't going to look at, people aren't going to say, oh yeah, but 2 years ago you used to do this. It's like you're under no obligation to be the same person this year who you were last year. So you can change. It's okay, and you can pivot, move, adapt, whatever the word is you want to call it, your whole business, and it's absolutely fine. You go where you want to end up.
And in fact, we talk often about showing your workings, and actually it can be quite compelling to tell the story of how last year what you were doing was this, and that it led to this, and that's why again you're qualified to do this next. So
Yeah.
we do have a poll, which 2 people have answered, but we haven't talked about yet,
Yes.
which is asking you guys, are you clear on who your ideal client is? So if you'd like to, you're welcome to vote. It's interesting, the 2 votes have said no. 2 voters so far have said no.
Oh, 4 no.
Oh. So anyway, I just also wanted to say on that one, Simon, what was I going
5
to
votes
say?
on no. Oh dear. I think we might have to do our exercise. Shall we do our exercise, Francis?
Yes, and then I'll remember what it was I was going to say.
Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a quick exercise for you. So what I'd like you to do is 6 votes. Right, okay, we're definitely doing the exercise. Here we go. So what I'd like to do is think about the people you work with as a broad niche. So thinking people in career change, people who want to get more confident, people who want to become less stressed. Think about it from a broad niche point of view, or how you currently would describe your niche. So think about those people. And then now imagine you are in a room full of those people. I've put 100 of those people in a room. They're all sat down in front of you. And I say to you, okay, you can work with 10 of these people this year, but they're only going to pay you once they've finished, once they've got the results that you deliver. So out of the 100 people in that niche, pick 10 of them that you're going to work with and only get paid at the end. Who out of that niche would you choose? Because those people have something about them, about their situation, about their current position, their desired outcome, that makes them preferable to the other 90 people in the room. So, my invitation to you is to think about, within your niche, there must be a few people who it's like, oh yeah, do you know what? I worked in the city in finance for 5 years. So actually, I speak the language of people who work in the city. So of people who are doing career change, do you know what? If you work in the city, I can help you a bit quicker than if you're in retail or if you're in shipping, for example. You know, already, just by a slight nuance, by slight something, you can find there's something within, and it can be as simple as that. It's just a little tweak to that niche can make all the difference. Because then what you can say is, people like me do things like this. So if you'd like to join me on this, I can help you with that. Because remember, you're not going to get paid till they finish. So we need to find the people who you can help the quickest and the most effectively out of those 90 people. So that would be my challenge or invitation to you to ponder that. So it might be worth making a couple of notes now and then coming back to that maybe this afternoon after this session.
It's very tricky. It's a hard one. I'm feeling sad for anyone who's kind of like lost a bit with it, you know, because it is really tough. I'm trying to think of a couple of examples that might be illuminating or helpful. I mean, if for example you looked at Simon and my community, Better, Bolder, Braver, should we have, for example, started off by saying to each other, we're really qualified because we have 40 years of marketing behind us. Let's build a community for anyone who wants to get better at their marketing. Now, we would find it very difficult to market ourselves because we would just be shouting a lot and it wouldn't be necessarily clear to anyone as to whether or not they were the right people to join. And then we might get a really sort of interesting but very varied combination of people that would make what we do every day a bit harder, because we might be having to think about how to make what we do cater for lots and lots of different kinds of people, and whether that's that they speak different languages in terms of, I mean, literally languages, or maybe it's corporate language, or maybe it's that, you know, whatever. So, but we could also have niched simply into what we care about as ethical marketing. We could have thought, well, let's talk about our how. We do marketing guidance that's based on ethical marketing practices. That feels quite specific. All right, let's stop there. Let's market like that. That's specific enough. But we didn't stop there. We thought, who is going to really resonate with this, that we really want to help, that is going to be a great audience in terms of what we get back in terms of the energy. And that's kind of where we got to with coaches. In fact, that's not entirely true, because it sort of can actually emerge a lot more organically than that. And sometimes it's a case of saying, is your niche staring you in the face, actually? So this is not a kind of scientific approach. This might be a sort of, are you actually quite already in bed or really keen to work with a particular kind of people, but you just haven't quite seen it yet. We're not asking you to kind of invent something out of nowhere necessarily.
I think also, just to sort of build on that, we've been speaking a lot about, when I use my room exercise there, about imagining who's in the room. It's like maybe you're at a point where you don't know who would be in that room. And that's okay. Also, it's important to imagine who you would like to be in the room. I think that's another thing of just remember, when you're building this business, you get to choose who's in the imaginary room. And it takes a lot to be able to just say, actually, do you know what, I'm just going to talk about this for a bit. And it can feel very daunting. But it really does work, because the thing is, if a financial advisor came to me, later on LinkedIn and said, hey, Simon, I've read some of your blogs about what you've written about marketing. Do you think you'd be able to help me with my marketing? I could say, well, I mean, I probably could, and I probably could help, but actually, a lot of what I've written is very, very specifically focused around coaches. So actually, I'm not best placed to do this. However, I can forward you over here. That's just saved me having to have a huge conversation with someone who just isn't the right fit. And I can confidently start to say, do you know what? I'm not the right fit for you. Now, if we'd go back a couple of years, I would have been like, yeah, sure, we would have had the conversation, done this, done that, da-da-da-da-da. And it may have got down the road, and then we'd realised after 5 or 6 conversations, we're just not the right fit. We're not going to work. And that takes time and it takes energy. And it's having that confidence to say, do you know what? Actually, these are the people I really want to work with, and this is who I think I'm going to be able to help and serve the quickest and the most effectively. So start with the easy stuff, and you can always change. That's the thing. If you do it for a year, for 2 years, for 5 years, and then you think, do you know what? I really think I'd like to work with this sort of person. Then you can move it down the line.
Yeah, you can make choices as they come to you. So, for example, I am extremely clear that I run a community that's for coaches, but what has come my way completely organically, because someone asked me for some advice because they knew I was in the business of helping people with their marketing, was a conversation with someone who is not a coach but helps by doing stuff for a specific group of people. And I'm just trying to give you an example of, if that's you find yourself being known for something, people are going to come your way anyway, and then the chance that it's up to you at that juncture to work out if they're a person that you can fit into your schedule and that you're going to get something back from, and then you can say yes, that's fine, and work out the terms that you want to work with them on. But also, as you go along, you'll become clearer on what your boundaries are, what your values are, and then you'll be clearer on being able to say to yourself, that person, it's nice that they're asking me to help them, but are they? If I work with them, I might not be able to work with someone that I know I really do want to work with, and then you can make it, you're better educated to make that decision.
And I think it can seem a bit counterproductive or even odd, doesn't feel amazing sometimes, actually passing someone on to someone else or referring someone elsewhere. But what we learned running an agency a long time ago is that actually, if you're not the right fit, sending traffic down the river, sending the boat down the river to the next person, actually pays off tenfold in the long run, because that person who you sent away still remembers that you were very clear on who you could help and why you weren't the right fit for them. Now, when they meet someone who they think fits that, they might be like, oh, do you know what? I met this person about 6 months or maybe a year ago, and they were super clear on the fact they can help people just like you. Let me look them up. And they'll go back through their email or back through their LinkedIn or whatever and be able to refer you, because they had that clear idea of what it is you do and who it is you help. So niching, although sometimes it can feel, like you're turning a lot of people away because they're not the right fit, and when you start off, it will feel like that. In time, those people will send people back around, and they'll say, "Hey, do you know what? I had this conversation with someone. I know you didn't end up working with them, but actually, they said I think we'd be a really good fit." And often, those people are a really good fit because they've done the sell for you. And that's one of the things. I'm in a networking group in Brighton Chamber, and they always say whenever you go to one of their networking events, you should always aim to recommend or refer on as many people as you can to all the people you meet, because actually it works so often. I've had people come up to me at networking events and say, someone over there said I need to come and talk to you about this, and I'm like, yes, you're talking to the right person, let's chat. And it's brilliant because people just refer each other, and you end up building this big community network that you don't even really know you're building until one day someone comes back and they're like, I've heard that you are the person to speak to about this very specific thing that I need help with.
Mm-hmm. And you can always think about a specific niche for... It's an interesting rabbit hole, this one, that we could go down, but could you have a couple of niches and then market to different audiences? I mean, my gut feeling is I wouldn't, because you'll get found out, but it's difficult to... I think it's better to own that you are looking after a particular niche audience than to say I work specifically with this audience, and then do a really amazing marketing campaign to that audience, and then say you're doing something completely different and do a different marketing campaign. I mean, not to mention that it would take more energy.
Yeah, I mean, for example, if you're a coach and you also make pottery, then obviously that's two different things. Yeah. But if you're a coach who does career change and you also do bookkeeping training, you can't market both of those at the same time. I don't think. I think it's chase two rabbits, catch none. It's like, well, are you doing career change or are you doing bookkeeping? We don't know. No one's going to be able to find that out from your website, because what is this? Is this two different people? Why do you do both? You can still do both. There's nothing wrong with that. But you talk about one consistently and people will get to know you, and it does take time and it takes confidence and it takes energy, and that's why we put so much effort into creating this community, because we know, I mean, this took months to build up and months to create the noise and the chat and the excitement around the fact that we were building something for coaches. And I had lots of people, I had to let hundreds of members go from an old community because they weren't coaches. I had to let them sail down the river to the next person. But it does take time. But actually, it does work, because now people know me as, oh, Simon, yes, they do marketing for coaches. And people start to refer to you as that and recommend you for that. And it's, what's that, a change in a year, 6 months, a year? It's not. It doesn't take that long, but it does take a headstrong approach to being, okay, let's make a concerted effort to talk about this and to put out what you want to get back. I think that's really one of the big factors in niching, is it allows you to put energy out, knowing that energy will come back with the people who are just like, oh, I have not interacted with someone who's on the same wavelength as me. You just get it. I want to know more. And they just latch on. And in our case, they become members.
Yeah, it's it's hard, I know, to kind of necessarily be completely straight on all this stuff and clear on what it is that you want for your niche audience. Part of what we're hoping is to get you guys to a place where you don't just think it's enough for you to say that you want to help people with sort of work-life balance, or one I heard recently was my niche is that I help people who don't take enough care of themselves and are busy looking after everyone else. And my immediate reaction was that kind of feels like everyone would possibly feel like they fit into that category. Possibly that's a bit unfair to say, but I think it's a case of our invitation to you is, can you get even more specific than that? Like, how would it serve you to have someone even clearer in your mind about what you mean, because you probably are imagining that person.
Absolutely.
Can you describe them? How would you, as we're
imagine
saying,
the room full of them.
Yeah, like if you had a room full of people who felt that they're, that they were doing too much for everyone else and not enough for themselves, then you could have someone who's in middle management in a company who feels like they're beholden to a chief exec who's a bit of a megalomaniac. You could have a parent who feels like they're exhausted and all they're doing is looking after their children. You could have someone who's in a toxic relationship who feels that they're, in a sort of weird kind of victim perpetrator triangle.
But all three of those are hugely different.
Yeah.
Vastly different.
And you might not want to work with any one of those. So,
Yes.
Even niching could be, the first step might even be saying to yourself, I know who I don't want to work with. And being a bit clearer about that.
Yeah.
That can help.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, we're very clear on the fact that we don't do hacks, we don't do tactics, and we do not promise to 10x your income. We're not Instagram coaches. We're not that whole, big, noisy, blah, 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 look at us marketing. We're not soapbox marketing people. And that immediately puts off huge swathes of the internet that are looking for a quick fix. Because they're never going to get what we're doing. What we do is we're very open about what we do and why we do it and the kind of people who get what we do. And because we can do that, you end up with a really nice, focused, energised lot of people who come together who all want to do the same thing. And I think being clear on who you don't want to work with, who isn't the right fit, really early on in your marketing, second sentence on the website, we're not for this sort of person, this isn't for you. You've saved them time, you've saved you time, everyone's a winner. And the right people will come out and find you.
Lucy, I love what Lucy's just saying. You don't have to work with anyone, even if they do fit in your niche, of course, because that's what makes discovery and chemistry sessions so valuable.
Absolutely.
And the more work you've done in mindset, isn't it, Lucy, and everyone else, where you've been able to be really clear on what your values and boundaries are. And obviously, as coaches, we know that you are already invested in thinking about those things, and you're, a lot more alert to them, arguably, than some other people might be. Yeah. Then you can easily look at that value compass and whatnot and think, is this person someone? Yeah.
I think also, yeah, that's very true, Lucy. Boundaries will take a long time. I think one other exercise that I think is worth pondering, if you're still sat there thinking, I just can't imagine that room, I can't quite get to the 100 people, then let's dial it right back to one person. So imagine after this session, you open up your email, and in your inbox is an email from someone. It's your dream client. What does that email say? And what are they asking for? And just thinking that, imagining what that email is going to say will help you identify what kind of person would have sent that email. And maybe, if you need to, think about that dream email every day for a whole week and see what comes up for you for the next few days. And then look back at them, maybe write them out and just save them in your drafts every day for a week, and then look back at them and think, do you know what? Actually, every single dream client I've come up with this week all work in the education sector and are head teachers who are looking for their next step. Isn't that funny? Oh, hang on a minute, I've got my niche there. It may be that it's not that specific. It may just be, actually, do you know what? They're all looking to build happiness into their business model. It may be, actually, these people are all coaches who want to build a better coaching business. The niche will come out in a way, and it's okay if it's not crystal clear and it doesn't form a perfect sentence just after thinking about it for an hour. This process is going to take you time. But just start to think about it.
Sorry, I was going to say, you've talked, you've already given away one of your fabulous exercises, and just to remind everyone here that they should be watching this space, because we do have a 6-part marketing journey, and we're on part 2 in terms of what we're sharing with people outside of the community by way of these masterclasses. There's obviously more exercises and more work once you're in the community, but also we are launching something that's even more specific for people in the community, that takes them on the journey and gives them a lot of food for thought and exercises to work through in order to get some of this stuff clearer. But the elephant in the room around client, which does come up on our course, is around how aware they are, the client, of what the problem is. And I think we can miss out talking. We can get so busy talking about who our ideal client is, making an assumption that that person will know what they need. But do you want to talk a little bit, Simon, about some of the things that we talk about in terms of awareness and how you can think about, or need to think about, how problem aware some people are?
Yeah, of course. So in terms of awareness, there's kind of multiple stages to how aware someone is. And of course, we all start off unaware. We're just getting on with our day-to-day and absolutely, completely unaware that there's even a thing that we should be worrying about. And at some point, something in our life, something in our current situation changes, and we're like, not so happy about this. I'd like to do something about it. And at that stage, you raise into that next level aware, which is either the problem aware or the pain aware stage. So it's either something like a pain you want to get rid of, like a frustration, an itch, or it's something that's just it's bubbling away. It's been there for a while, and all of a sudden you become aware of it. And at that point, you become problem pain aware. So the next stage is solution aware. So that's where you start to think about that problem or pain you've got. And then you think, I wonder if anybody actually sort of helps people fix stuff like this. I wonder if there's a solution to this. At that point, you become solution aware, because you're then ready to go out there and find a solution to that problem. So then you'll be looking at that solution, and then you might think, oh, do you know what? I wonder if there's anybody who I could pay to help me with this. Or I wonder if there's a book I could read that would help give me some clarity on this. At that point, you become product aware, because you're ready to buy something to solve that problem. And then, in that last stage of awareness, you become the most aware you're going to be. And that's when you make that last mindset change, that last step up, where you're like, this is the person I want to help me with that problem, that pain, that outcome. Because they've gone through that whole pyramid of stages to go from, mowing the lawn, doing the shopping, day to day, completely unaware, to engaging with a coach on a program, a series of sessions, a training, a book, whatever it may be, in order to go, and they've gone through that stage of becoming aware of it and then wanting to do something about it. And I think you can think what we do in the course is talk through what your ideal client is thinking and feeling at each of those different stages, so you can help understand the journey that client's going on, and how they go from being completely unaware of you to a client. And that journey is what helps you become even more clear on your niche. It helps you become even more clear on who that ideal client is. And we're not saying you get to a point where you can sort of make a list of 50 names at the top, but you will get clarity in the sense that you work through those stages. And by understanding those stages, that's often the missing link between, well, I'm not sure how to describe them, to I know exactly the kind of person I really want to work with.
You're making me think about the fact that the other reason why niching is so helpful, it's reason number one, so that it makes your marketing much more focused. So if people are not aware of the problem that you understand they have, then two things to mention on this. Number one, you will need to be doing some education work in your marketing, and number two, there's a greater degree to which you need to exercise as a coach that sort of level of empathy around how it's going to feel when it lands with those people as to what they might be going through. So let's take the example of the sort of people in toxic relationships. They may be completely unconscious of something that is desperately needed by them, and it's something that you're incredibly passionate about, and it's an audience that you've really wanted to work with. Now, you can't just, first of all, people say, shall I be talking about coaching in my marketing? We had a really interesting reflection and confidence session in the community, which is something I hold a space every Thursday afternoon for members of our community, and it's always wonderful. And we got into the subject of sort of talking about coaching, whether there's the need for educating people, particularly in this country, as to what coaching is all about, for example, in comparison with the states that seem on the surface to have a much better relationship or understanding of what coaching is. So yes, there's the debate about to what degree do you need in your marketing to talk about what coaching is. And of course, if you're just talking about what coaching is, you're not talking about the why you necessarily. However, there is probably the need to talk a little bit about what coaching is and what your approach to coaching is. And if your niche audience, if your ideal client is someone, firstly, that you need to educate kindly as to what it is you think their issue is, and you're needing to focus your energies on working out what that message is to them, then you're doing a huge education piece around letting them know that you are working with people like them, and that people like them have problems like this. And then you're packaging what problems like this is in a really sensitive way, and talking about coaching, because you're talking about your approach to coaching and how it's relevant to that person. And you're giving off the flavour the entire time that that person will be safe if they work with you. So there's what I'm trying to say is niching also serves that sort of empathy orientated approach to working out what you can say in your marketing. Yes. Because the clearer you are on who you want to help, the better you can articulate all of the above. Yes. And in a way that as coaches reflects your expertise as coaches, which is to say your framing and your holding space even within your marketing in a way that's going to make people feel safe. If you're not clear, then you can't do those things as well. So I hope that resonates particularly with our audience.
Yes, I think that's a really excellent way of sort of bringing it all together. And I'm going to put a link in the chat, which is a guide we've written on empathetic attraction, which is essentially how to use empathy, authority and story together in a really empathetic way. And having a niche just helps that whole process flow. So do check that out if you'd like to know a little bit more about what Francis was just talking about with empathy. And then
I've also got a blog post which I'm going to find, in which I talk about what was it called, Simon?
Empathetic attraction.
I'm thinking of another one. You carry on, and I'll try and find the one I'm talking about.
So next session, we're going to be back talking about the next stage of the marketing journey, which is, of course, story. So the idea here is that once we've learnt more about our ideal client and we know who we want to market to, who we want to attract and who we'd like to have more of as clients, we can then bring them in with a great story. Now, story doesn't necessarily mean like a, forever and ever happy ever after tale. Story is just about how you articulate what you do, why you do it, and who you do it for. And empathetic attraction is at the centre of that. It's that combination of empathy, authority and story. So story is the kind of glue that binds together your empathy and your authority in an authentic way. And it's all about making the client feel seen, heard and understood. And simply by talking about yourself, your business, the outcomes in that way, you're going to be talking to your client in a way that no one else is doing. And that might seem like a bold claim, but I'll be honest, it is amazing how many people don't do that. They just focus on, I do 6 sessions, I follow this process, and it's all based on this theory. And that's it. That's all of their marketing, and they're expecting the client to try and decode it to do the rest of that work. So chapter 3 is going to be the third instalment of all of that, and try and bring the first 3 chapters together. And then, of course, after that, we've got the next stages, which you can join us for as well. So if you'd like to join us for the next ones, it's super simple to do so just by watching this live session or recording. You'll be part of the Crowdcast emails, so you'll get reminders of upcoming sessions. You can also save your spot by clicking on the Crowdcast thing in the corner and clicking save your spot, and you'll get the link emailed to you. If you would like to join us for more discussion around client story, content, offer and journey, the next stages, then you can join us in the community as well. we'd love to have you on board. You can join our weekly events. We've got loads of content going on in there. There's the tips and tricks session, which I hold on Tuesdays. There's also the reflection and confidence session, which Francis hosts on a Thursday. So yes, if you would like to come along, we've got our monthly get together, our monthly mingle on Friday as well, which happens once a month.
And I've just put in 3 ad hoc workshops for our community members, which are kind of working groups. So another thing that we're now doing is running sort of how to, just working alongside each other on common things that people might need the kind of motivation. So whether that's writing for a blog post, whether it's sort of navigating social media, whether it's collecting up information in a way, so when you're reading, collecting it up in a sort of library, a bank of stuff that you can then use for marketing. All these things we can do together in a community, and we're enjoying getting new members on board whenever they join, and it's just a lovely place. So we'll hopefully see more and more of you in there soon, and thank you for joining us. Are there any questions, because we have a couple of minutes, and it's a bit of an overwhelming subject, as is usually the case, but hopefully it's been food for thought. Does anyone have any lasting reflections that you Thank you, Jacob. Great. Is it Jacob or Jacob? We'll soon find out, because I'm delighted
that's a
that
very
you
hard
have
question.
recently joined our community.
Exactly.
So
it's also a very hard
to
question to answer in text, isn't it? How do you pronounce?
Yes, of course. That's why I said that. Stupid question. So looking forward to getting to know you in the community, so you can tell us how to say your name properly. But
Wonderful.
does anyone have any lasting comments quickly? Yes, getting more granular.
Yes, wonderful. Well, do ping us any questions that come.
Don't worry too much. The worst case scenario is that you're doing a load of generalist marketing, and some people will serendipitously find you, and that's not a bad thing. Just think about maybe niching a bit as you go along and see what happens.
And if you're in the community, we'll be posting our blog all about this session in the community. So do share any insights you've got with us in the community, and we'll be able to have a further conversation about that with you there. So thank you very much for listening and watching, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time. Bye.
Bye.